Welcome to The Explainer. I'm your host, and as co-lead director here at Finance News Frontier, I spend basically my whole day analyzing the massive invisible undercurrents that shape our global economy. And okay, let's just dive right into this, because right now we are sitting right smack in the middle of the 2026 semiconductor inflection. This is a massive structural paradigm shift happening in the global tech markets literally as we speak, and it's completely re-architecting the future of computing. So, pull up a chair. This is going to be a fascinating breakdown. The U.S. government just bought a majority stake in Intel, and AMD's stock just had its biggest day in history. Now, here's the thing. If you've been skimming the headlines lately and you thought the AI wars were completely settled, well, you're actually looking at the wrong chips. We are seeing market moves right now that we haven't witnessed in decades. I mean, entire companies are essentially being nationalized, and underdogs are suddenly adding hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap practically overnight. But to understand exactly what this means for the future, we really have to look under the hood of artificial intelligence. Now, what's really interesting here is this tectonic shift we're experiencing. It's a battle between the muscle and the brain. For the last few years, everyone was just totally obsessed with the muscle. Those are the GPUs, the graphics processing units, heavily dominated by Nvidia. They provided the sheer brute force you need to train massive large language models. But you know, the ecosystem has evolved. Today, all that raw muscle has to answer to the brain. That's the CPU, the central processing unit, which handles the orchestration and all the complex logic. And guess what? This is AMD's home turf. The era of just throwing raw GPU power at a problem, that's ending. We are officially in the era of smart orchestration.
So, you might be wondering, why exactly is this shift happening now? Well, it really comes down to two words: agentic AI. We have moved way past basic chatbots that just spit out a text recipe for you. Agentic AI refers to autonomous systems that can actually plan, execute multi-step tasks, coordinate different software tools, and basically make persistent decisions all on their own. And because these new AI agents have to juggle super complex workflows and memory access, the primary hardware bottleneck has actually shifted away from the GPU. It's moved right back to the orchestration layer. The AI doesn't just need to think fast anymore. It needs a powerful manager to organize its thoughts.
You can actually see this evolution playing out inside modern data centers right now. Back during the LLM training boom of 2024, data centers were incredibly GPU-centric. You typically see one CPU managing about 8 GPUs. But in our new 2026 agentic AI world, architectures are rapidly moving toward a 1-to-1 ratio. Think about that. The CPU has to work just as hard to manage and route the complex decisions as the GPU does to actually generate them. It's a complete structural reversal. We are, without a doubt, in the middle of a major CPU renaissance.
And that structural reversal is exactly why AMD just reported a historic, absolute blowout of a first quarter, pulling in a staggering $10.3 billion in revenue. This surge sent their stock flying up 18.6% in a single trading day, pushing it toward record highs. Now, mainstream news just saw a standard earnings beat, but what the market was really pricing in is the fact that AMD isn't just playing for second place anymore. With their diversified portfolio of high-performance CPUs and AI-specialized GPUs, they have basically become the primary architects of this new, agent-centric AI infrastructure.
This builds a much bigger picture when we zoom out and look at the entire market. AMD CEO Dr. Lisa Su just dropped a massive upward revision. They are now projecting the total addressable market for server CPUs will hit $120 billion by 2030. Let that sink in for a second. They effectively doubled their previous forecast. And look, this isn't just corporate optimism, it's a clear, quantifiable signal that this CPU renaissance is structurally real. The demand for head nodes, the CPUs that direct the workflow across massive AI clusters, has completely, totally outstripped the available supply.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Looking at AMD's data center revenue growth, you can clearly see the engine that's powering this entire ship. We're looking at a jump from $3.69 billion in Q1 of 2025 to $5.8 billion in Q1 of 2026. Guys, that is a 57% year-over-year explosion. For the first time in the company's entire history, the data center isn't just a side hustle. It is their primary driver of both revenue and earnings. And they are successfully converting all this top-line growth into massive free cash flow.
But here's the hidden signal that the mainstream financial news totally missed. TSMC, the world's premier chip manufacturer, is already hitting a 70% yield rate at their Kaohsiung Fab 22 for their advanced 2-nanometer process.
Now, why does this actually matter? Because hitting a 70% yield during an initial ramp-up phase is absolutely outstanding. It means AMD's next-generation 2nm Venice processors aren't just some distant conceptual dream on a whiteboard, they are ready for mass production right now. This represents a massive leap in energy efficiency and compute density at the exact moment when hyperscalers are absolutely desperate for power-efficient solutions. Of course, all of this rapid technological advancement is colliding head-on with some serious 2026 geopolitical whiplash. First off, the Trump administration enacted a 25% tariff on advanced AI chips exported to China. This essentially takes a financial cut for the U.S. Treasury while incentivizing domestic data center buildouts. Meanwhile, rumblings of a U.S.-Iran peace deal sent oil prices tumbling 13%, which, frankly, is a massive relief for the highly energy-intensive chip fabrication plants. And finally, we have the memory supercycle. Micron's entire 2026 supply of high-bandwidth memory is completely 100% sold out. These three distinct forces are creating an incredibly complex, high-stakes global backdrop. So what does all of this mean for us, the everyday consumers? Well, if history is any guide, I'd expect to see a pretty severe squeeze in the consumer electronics market. Because that crucial high-bandwidth memory is entirely sold out, whatever trickle of supply does exist is being completely diverted to the high-margin data centers. As a direct result, component costs for gaming consoles and everyday PCs are basically going to skyrocket. We are essentially walking into what I like to call the gaming dark ages. In fact, AMD is already realistically guiding for a 20% decline in their gaming revenue, simply because these luxury memory components are just way too expensive to put into standard consumer goods right now. Which naturally leads me to a major prediction. Based on these trends, I'd expect to see AMD actually overtake Nvidia in the AI inference market by early 2027. Now, Nvidia will undoubtedly keep its massive hardware moat for training those huge foundational models. But inference, the actual running of these autonomous AI agents in the real world, that requires specialized orchestration. AMD's upcoming Venice architecture features a 16 times increase in AI compute density. It is quite simply the dominant purpose-built choice for this exact task. The market for running AI is about to completely eclipse the market for training it, and AMD is positioned perfectly to capitalize. We've covered a massive shift today, from agentic AI all the way to the CPU renaissance. But I want to leave you with a final thought on arguably the wildest macroeconomic move of the year. The US government now owns a majority stake in Intel. They've stepped in with tens of billions of dollars to protect what they're calling silicon sovereignty. So here's my question for you. Is government intervention on this massive scale the only way we can beat foreign manufacturing dominance? Or do we just kill the spirit of free market competition in the American chip industry? I really want to know your specific predictions on this one. Sound off in the comments below. Let's get a good debate going. Thanks so much for pulling up a chair and joining me at the table today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.
An investment in knowledge pays the best interest, so why not invest in this channel? Click like and subscribe for more.